PIMCO CEO Mohamed El-Erian said the other day that developed economies will stall over the next year as Europe slides into recession, which makes it, as Sarah's been talking about, all the more critical that policymakers get their act together to stem this spreading debt crisis. Well, Mohamed joins us now in the studio. Great to have you here finally.
Thank you, Betty.
So, Mohamed, you say finally European leaders get it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They got bombarded this weekend in Washington at the annual meetings by people telling them, you've got to get your act together. This is hurting us. This is getting out of control. I call it an intervention. When your friends and family come around you and they stage an intervention to wake you up into action.
Right.
So they went back to Europe saying all the right things, and now they've got to get it done.
Right, and that's exactly what Sarah's talking about, is what are they going to get done? What do they need to get done first?
First and foremost, they have to stabilize the situation, which means stabilize the banking system and stabilize Italian and Spanish yields. And today's action is good news. It helps that we are at the end of the quarter, so investors are very nervous. So there's lots of repositioning going on because investors don't want to go out at the end of the quarter showing that they missed a rally.
Right.
Okay? So Europe has a bit of a breathing space right here. Second, they've got to turn that from being just urgent to being durable, which means getting the mechanisms in place. And that's why leveraging the EFSF is so important.
Okay.
Third,
the Stability Fund.
The Stability Fund. And third, and most difficult, they've got to make a decision. They've got to have the moment of truth on how they want the Eurozone to look like. Do they want it to be a fiscal union, or do they want it to be a smaller but stronger Eurozone? And that decision has to be made. And it's really a German decision. So we need to see these steps take place, and then we need the politicians to give the air cover so that the technocrats can continue to improve the situation on the ground.
But I don't hear in there, Mohamed, you talking directly about Greece and what to do about Greece. What about that?
I think Greece, and we have this image, Greece is like the toe that got infected. It wasn't dealt with, and therefore the infection spread throughout the whole body.
Right.
And is now threatening vital organs. Greece is a toe. It's no longer an issue about Greece. I think it's an issue about the rest of the body. For the particular case for Greece, I see almost no state in the world in which Greece does not restructure its debt. Right? The question is,
so some orderly default for Greece then?
Some default, hopefully orderly.
Okay.
That's what we need. We need an orderly default, right? But they will default.
They will default.
They will default.
Okay, but you're saying that basically forget about the default at this point with Greece. What we need is to make sure that the banking system can withstand any type of pressure like that, right?
Correct. It's all about firewalls. It's all about firewalls. It's not what's inside on the other side of the firewall. It's how strong the firewall is. Because Greece is going to default, and the only question in my mind is, does it exit the Eurozone or not?
And do you think it will?
I think if Greece were left to its own devices, and if Germany were left to their own devices, they will all agree that Greece should exit. They would all agree that Greece should have entered to begin with, that Greece today faces a massive growth problem as in addition to a debt problem, and that an internal devaluation, which means cutting wages by 30 to 40%, is simply not going to happen, and therefore Greece needs to reclaim its exchange rate in order to help it grow. So if we were living in a perfect world and if there were mechanisms, there's no doubt in my mind that Greece would exit the Eurozone. The problem, Betty, there are no mechanisms right now. So they've got to figure that out quickly.
But with all that you say, Mohamed, though, I mean, if in fact there are firewalls erected for the banking system, and in fact we do see an orderly restructuring of Greek debt, does that mean that Europe will avoid a recession, or there will be still a recession in that region?
I think that there will most likely be a recession because
Regardless,
because a lot of damage has been created already. Right? So the question is not whether growth is slowing in Europe. We know it's slowing. It's how much will it slow, right? And let's not forget that this is part of a synchronized slowdown of the global economy. And let's not forget that Germany got a lot of its growth from exporting to China, and China's slowing. So we're going to live through 12 months of synchronized slowdown. Hopefully it will be a blip and will come straight back, but a lot depends on whether Europe gets its act together.